I'm Mrs. Burns and welcome back to our unit on fractions. Today we are going to look at section 6.1, which is the start of this section in our Math 8 textbook. And we're focusing today on multiplying a fraction by a whole number. So let's remember something here. Anytime we have multiplying, it's really just a fancy way of expressing repeated addition. So we could say 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, but it takes a long time, so we just say 6 times 3. Or 7 plus 7 could be said as 2 times 7. Or even 1 times 36 is just a fancy way of saying 36. There's just one 36 there. So whenever you see a whole number like 6, for example, that's really a secret fraction. So this 6 can be written with the secret 1 underneath it. So we're going to use this secret fraction method today. When you multiply a fraction by a whole number, first step, you need to write the whole number as if it's a secret fraction. So let's take example 1. 6 written like a secret fraction would be 6 over 1, and let's just rewrite the rest to make it really clear. Then all we need to do is multiply the numerators. 6 times 1, those are the numerators, equals 6. And then it says to multiply the denominators. 1 times 2 is 2. From there, all we need to do is look, is that fraction in lowest terms, or can they both be divided by the same number? Well, 6 and 2, they do have something in common. They're both even numbers, so 2 can be divided by 2, and 6 can be divided by 2 to make 3 over 1, or another way of saying that would be 3 is a secret fraction here, and we could just say 3. So you can express that as 3 over 1 or 3. Now you may notice, Mrs. Burns, you didn't make me find the lowest common denominator. You don't need to in multiplication and division. So we just look at the two denominators and multiply them together. You don't need to make them the same. So that's kind of nice. You do need to for addition and subtraction though, so don't forget. Alright, example 2. First step, write it like it's a secret fraction. Let's rewrite the equation. Then we multiply the numerators. 4 times 5 is 20, divided by, multiply the denominators. 1 times 8 is 8. Can these be divided by the same number? Yes, they can. They can both be divided by 4. So we get 5 over 2. And it's perfectly acceptable to write 5 over 2, or if you would like, you may change it to mixed numbers. 2 goes into 5 nicely 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Keep the same denominator. So you can express that as an improper fraction or a mixed number. Richard is making a recipe that calls for 8 scoops of flour. He wants to only make 3/4 of the recipe though, so how many scoops of flour should he use? Well, let's write this out. He wants 8 scoops of flour. We're going to need to multiply 8 times 3/4, so let's rewrite 8 as if it's a fraction. Multiply the numerators. 8 times 3 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4. Both of these can be divided by 4, so 24 divided by 4 is 6. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and we end up with 6 scoops of flour. Now don't forget, if the question asks how many scoops should he use, then you need to say 6 scoops. So those are the units in this example. Alright, Nicole, her room is 15 feet in length. So it's 15 feet long, and the width is 2/3 of the length. So we need to think, is 2/3 smaller or bigger? Remember that a fraction is always part of a whole. So 2/3 is like 2 parallelograms out of 3. So if we had 2 parallelograms out of 3, so that's less. So it's going to be shorter in length. So our answer should be less than 15. But let's figure it out. What's the width? Well, 15 times 2/3. Let's write this like a secret fraction. 15 times 2 is 30. 3 times 1 is 3. Both of these numbers can be reduced. They can be divided by 3 each. 30 divided by 3 is 10. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So our answer is 10 feet. 10 feet wide. And finally, example 3. A quarter, what's a quarter? A quarter is 1/4. If you think about quarters in money, you need 4 quarters to make a dollar. So it's 1/4. A quarter of Canada's 20 ecozones are marine ecozones, which include parts of the ocean. So we can say, okay, we've got 1/4 are marine. And then the rest of Canada's ecozones are terrestrial, land ecozones. They include rivers, lakes, and wetlands even in the land. So how many marine ecozones does Canada have? Well, out of 20, 1/4 of them are marine ecozones. So let's write 20 as a secret fraction. 20 times 1, our numerators, is 20. 4 times 1 for the denominators is 4. Both of these can be divided by 4. So we get 5/1, or we could say 5 marine ecozones. Now when it comes to the terrestrial ecozones, we know that 1/4 are marine, so that means 3/4 must be terrestrial. So 1, 2, 3/4. So we're going to say 20 ecozones times 3/4 are terrestrial. 20 times 3 is 60. 4 times 1 is 4. This can be reduced, so we can divide both by 4. 60 divided by 4 is 15. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So this is 15 terrestrial ecozones. Now you might be saying, Mrs. Burns, you did that one the hard way. There is an easier way for that one. You could say, well, we know that there are 20 in total, and we know that 5 were marine, so that must leave us with 15 terrestrial. So that's just another way you could have done the second part of that question. So there we go. Now you know how to multiply a fraction by a whole number. Stay tuned for section 6.2, dividing fractions by a whole number.